Minecraft has gotten more and more complicated over the years, with well over 1,000 items, these mistakes, and farts? I don't know what they're called. You can basically become Thor, cheat death, open a slave trade, forget that last one. Sometimes we forget how this all started. So this is the story of how I went back to relive our childhoods and spent 100 days in Minecraft, starting in the earliest version playable in survival, and updating our world through to version 1.0. On day 1, I obviously started by getting some wood. Just kidding, I immediately got into a fist fight with a creeper, mined some stone with my fist, and then collected a stack of 99 dirt. So pretty much what you would do at the start of any Minecraft world. So obviously this version is a bit different than modern Minecraft. Not only is there no sprinting or hunger bar, but there's also no inventory or crafting yet either. Also, you can spawn signs out of yourself, shoot arrows from your face, and cold drop stone slabs for some reason. What in the actual tarnation? Okay, that's actually in a different version. In this version, you just have natural silk touch, I guess. My goals for these 100 days are to get full diamond armor and tools, build an epic base, and collect every illegal block and item I can get my hands on, including overstacked items, a half door, fire armor, bedrock, and an end portal, like the actual portal itself as a block. I'm not kidding. And the first 2 goals are going to be much harder than you might think. But for now, after mining some planks and eating some shrooms I found in this dark alleyway, I found some gold. And in this version, gold and iron ore actually drop 1 to 3 of the block variants of the ore. But don't worry, I'm not going to do that because that's basically cheating. But also, we won't be keeping anything in our inventory when we upgrade to the next version anyways. And even though this just feels like an off-brand version of Minecraft you might find on Cool Math Games, this is an actual vanilla Minecraft version made by Notch himself. I think it feels off because of weird things like how all the animations are slightly different and how blocks have different textures when they're on the ground. But this is just the start of the weirdness and bugginess of these old versions. Not to mention, slowly updating this world to the full release causes a lot of interesting world corruption, so make sure to watch to the end to see that. And obviously, my fist is a bit confused, mobs aren't nocturnal, and creepers are slightly less explosive. Also, skeleton arrows are purple, mobs have a chance of spawning in wearing off-brand iron armor, and you have natural hardcore mode. So even though this is survival, you still lose the world whenever you die in this version. And it's actually like this all the way up until infdev, so I thought I'd be getting a break from hardcore in this video, but I guess not. But on that note, there's not really much else I can do in this version since there's no crafting yet, and these mobs won't burn in the daylight yet, so I just made a dirt hut and waited through the rest of the day. But anyways, on day 2, I spawned into a completely and utterly normal version of Minecraft. Wait a minute, what the? Yeah, I swear I'm not playing a black market Minecraft on a literal TI-84 calculator right now. This is Minecraft indev, the next developmental phase of Minecraft. Also, you don't exist, and yet you somehow also have player stats, which are always at 100. Extremely useful feature, nice job, Mojang. Oh yeah, and we also have an inventory now. This mob's name is Rana, which means frog in Latin, Spanish, and Italian. But if you're already losing brain cells, just wait until we get to the next couple of versions. You might have also noticed that my items have promptly exited existence. I don't really know if there's any way to convert your inventory from classic to indev, but we will be able to keep our inventory when we upgrade to infdev later on. I want to focus on getting full diamond armor and tools first in this challenge, and I want to try to accomplish this by day 25, but I can't really work towards this goal quite yet, so for now, I chopped down a tree and discovered that they still drop planks, and leaves drop saplings now, although they look slightly disturbing. Leaves also don't decay, which may give me mild brain rot. The saplings are actually functional though, and they're even more efficient than the modern day model. And you can still mine stone with your fist. Well, I guess my fist isn't really all there anymore, but my point is that stone drops cobblestone instead of stone, and coal drops stone slabs for some reason. And items can still stack to 99 in this version, so I put my non-existent hands to work and collected our first illegal item, a stack of 99 dirt. Wait a second. Oh my god, it's a giant. Those are so rare. Wait, what is that in his hand? Oh, it's today's sponsor, the Fresh SMP. If you want to be saved from eternal boredom and religion isn't doing it for you, then you should join the Fresh SMP cult. Server. Imagine playing Minecraft, but with thousands of other people, constant updates, and 3 different epic realms to have fun adventures in. Now, before you spam the right arrow button, you can join for free on Java or Bedrock, which means you can play on literally any device. Yes, even that ancient tablet your 97-year-old grandma uses to play Candy Crush. The Fresh SMP is perfect for all types of players, having 3 realms to choose from. If you have no enemies and enjoy peaceful farming and adventure, this is your sanctuary. You can live out your days peacefully farming potatoes and pretending the real world doesn't exist. This is my personal favorite realm. If you thrive on chaos, PvP, and server wars, then make sure to join the Lifesteal realm. If you like fancy floating islands and custom weapons with abilities that should probably be illegal, then this realm is for you. The server is constantly updated to keep the SMP fresh, and from epic civilization battles to creative building contests, the events always have something fun to offer. So join the Fresh SMP today using the IP or port on screen and experience an epic adventure. And thank you to the Fresh SMP for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you on the server. After participating in manual labor, I walked over to the Farlands, and once we upgrade to infdev, this ocean will be replaced with infdev terrain and we'll have an infinite world. Then I collected some mentally unstable flowers, and I'm just gonna keep our overstacked dirt in the top left of our inventory, because I'm not sure if I'll be able to move it into a chest or something in a later version without it just defaulting to a stack of 64. Then I added second floor access to our dirt mansion, and since there's still no crafting yet, I just sat on our roof and looked off into the horizon for the rest of the day. And that was the first savable version of indev. Classic is where we started, and pre-classic is an unofficial phase of development and just means everything that happened before classic. Like this zombie game that has the first appearance of the player model, and Ruby Dung, which would end up being the code base for the early versions of Minecraft. And while pre-classic introduced fundamental mechanics like breaking, placing, physics, and all these other things, classic added a ton of content to the game, like bedrock, water, lava, sand, gravel, all these ores, trees, a bunch more mobs and blocks, multiplayer, commands, and of course survival mode with the survival test phase of classic. On the morning of day 3, we were in indev 2010-0130, and would you look at that, we finally have crafting. That's definitely the only interesting thing about this version. Yeah, so Doc now added 3 new mobs with animations that don't work, and if you go on to enjoy the video, I'm trying to hit 1 million subscribers. And if all 8 billion people on Earth subscribed right this instant, we might be able to hit it. So consider subscribing. It's free and it helps out a ton. But after using the power of the newly crafted crafting to craft crafting, I crafted our first excavator and comically large chest. Really a full block chest, but then I checked to see if wood still drops planks, and it does. But I chopped this tree down anyways, and you might be wondering what these absurd NFT looking creatures drop if you assault them. And the answer is nothing happens, and they don't even have a death animation. Okay, anyways, since we can craft now, we can actually start making some progress. So I mined some stone and coal with my large stick, which mines like as fast as a diamond pick in this version for some reason, and then discovered that furnaces don't exist yet, but also you can make smooth stone slabs with cobblestone. But anyways, I accidentally crafted more wooden tools, and then actually activated my neurons and crafted some stone tools. And then I began the hunt for iron. After a bit of traversing this cursed looking terrain, I found this massive vein of iron. I decided that bigger isn't always better though, and headed over to this short king instead. But it was still absolutely gargantuan, and it didn't really feel ethical to not leave any iron for Beast Boy though, so I only stole 8 cubic meters of the stuff. Then I chopped down some trees and began some major renovations to our humble abode. And by renovations, I of course mean that I completely demolished it and rebuilt it larger and stronger than ever. And we still have roof access, of course, but doors and glass don't exist yet, so we just have these awkward holes in our walls. Then I violently exterminated these tree leaves for violating the laws of gravity, and on day 4, we were in indev 2010-0131. So far in indev, dynamic lighting the inventory, crafting along with workbenches, yeah, that's what they used to be called, the indev houses which spawn when creating a new world, all these mobs and all these items have been added, the most interesting of which being the quiver and studded armor, along with these other less interesting armor types. The water spawner item, which literally summoned a tsunami upon being placed, the same thing but lava flavored, and gears have been added. And this version is again incredibly normal and unnoteworthy. Yeah, so now the generic mobs that spawn across your world have been replaced with Notch's design of the player mob. And these player mobs actually have animations and drop stuff upon death, specifically string, feathers, and sulfur. Yeah, gunpowder used to be called sulfur. Also, we finally have F5. I mean, it doesn't open up a third-person view or anything, it just summons a rain cloud directly over you. But we do have it now. I then activated all 3 of my brain cells and tried crafting an iron pickaxe with iron ore because you can't craft furnaces yet. So after a bit of controlling the local Steve population, I used some of the string to craft up our first bow. I mean, we can't really use it without any way to get arrows, but we have it, I guess. I then crafted up some torches and attempted to go caving, but the caves were pathetically tiny, so instead I decided to traverse my way up to the highest point in the world. I don't really know why I did this, but I guess it's because there's really nothing else to do in this version. But I do find it interesting that in a game currently void of any inherent objectives, there's still so much people have done in this version. But yeah, this is it, the top of the world. Pretty epic. Although I could have just built blocks up to this point, but whatever. On day 5, we were in indev 2010-0211, and the farming system has now been added, along with the day-night cycle. So up until this point, I've just been playing each version for 20 minutes, which is the length of a full Minecraft day and night cycle. Also, giants were added and spawned naturally for a short period of time. They've actually never been removed and still exist in the game's code to this day, but their ability to spawn naturally naturally was quickly removed, and the version that they spawned in has been lost. And we were suddenly fully dripped out. Yeah, so in this version, you finally have a player model, but it's just Notch's skin with every type of armor on it. We don't actually have armor on though, it's just the player model. But now that there's a day-night cycle, hostile mobs are going to spawn again, and if you remember, we're basically in hardcore mode until infdev because there's no respawning. So after stealing the cloth and meat, feathers of the local uninteresting animal life, and collecting some more resources, I discovered once again that furnaces still don't exist. So I took my anger out on this sheep, and it dropped a flint and steel? Yeah, so even though mobs are normal now, they still have goofy drops. But the sun was finally setting, so I headed inside and boarded up our doors and windows. And then I started a little mine to wait through the night. I found this cool cave, but then I remembered how I almost died to a glitch I found when mining in a previous challenge I did in old versions. And I didn't want to risk losing the world before we could respawn, so I just gave up and did nothing for the rest of the day. Well, other than being assaulted by this spider and discovering this weird torch bug. Oh, and I also made this bolt. My bad, that detail was crucial to the plot. We're now in indev 2010-0223, the last version of indev, and armor has now been re-added, which I guess was removed at some point, along with the third-person view, furnaces, flint, raw and cooked pork chops, and painting. So I finally crafted our first furnace so we can begin increasing our carbon footprint. I also tried to craft paintings, which should exist in this version, but it wasn't working because you actually have to use light gray wool. Bruh sound effect. But after smelting up some iron, I crafted ourselves some iron armor and tools. Then after extinguishing these creeps on my front lawn, I set out in search of food to regain some health. The sun was already setting somehow, but I managed to acquire an absolute quantity of meat before heading back to my hidey hole at sunset. I grilled up our pork chops, tried crafting a painting again, and then tested out F5, and it works. I then did basically nothing for the rest of the day, and boom, we are now in infdev. And for some reason, the upgrade caused a ton more trees to spawn around our base, but as you can see in the distance, we now finally have infinite world generation, so we can leave this garbage dump behind in search of our forever home. And I want to take a second to thank Zelinator for being probably the sole reason I was able to figure out how to upgrade this world from classic to indev and then from indev to infdev. He also helped me pull off something super insane with this world later on in the video, so if you want to try this challenge out for yourself, or you just want some more long-form Minecraft content, go check out his channel. But anyways, we're now in the first savable version of infdev, infdev 2010-0327. And so far, golden apples, automatic game saving, and of course, infinite terrain generation have been added. Well, it's not actually infinite terrain generation, the world is just 32 million by 32 million blocks big now. And now that our world is almost as large as my ego, we can finally make some progress towards our first goal. Also, our overstacked dirt survived the upgrade, so that's pretty epic. So after gathering up our immense wealth of possessions, I said goodbye to our humble beginnings and set off in a very specific direction. Basically, in these old versions, there was a bug with ore generation that caused diamonds to only generate in their intended amounts in the southwest quadrant of the world. And since coordinates don't exist yet, I had to use where the sun and moon were rising and setting to figure out which direction we needed to head. And by the way, the reason this giant wall is created is just because the world height was increased between classic and infdev. But immediately after embarking on our journey, the sun was already setting. So I quickly set up a dirt hut to wait through the night in. And after doing nothing but lose brain mass for the rest of the day, I actually realized at the end of the day that mobs don't seem to be spawning, like at all. I have no idea why, but I just took the W and destroyed my dirt hut, and on the morning of day 8, we were still in the same version of infdev, because we're going to be spending more time in infdev, alpha, and beta, and there are less significant versions to go through, so we'll only be updating every few days from now on. But I continued the search for our forever home, found this pretty cool looking cave thing, and continued wandering aimlessly for the rest of the day. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't grow up playing these versions or anything, but there's just something about infdev terrain generation that just looks better than modern terrain generation for some reason. I also love how green the grass is, and I definitely think Mojang should add a biome with this grass color to the modern game. But traveling through water in this version is absolutely atrocious. There's no boats or swim mode, and you move about as slowly as a tectonic plate. But nonetheless, on the night of day 8, I found a spot that I liked, so I began clearing an area for our new home. I then spread the light of the one true axolotl Jesus' love across our new base, unmade some acts of nature, and then began work on our new house on the morning of day 9. And after a bit more unpaid manual labor, we now have 4 walls. There's no roof yet, and the floor is still dirt, but hey, whoever said you need food, water, and a proper shelter to survive? No one intelligent, I'll bet. But anyways, we can now finally start work on getting full diamond armor and tools. So after absorbing some more of the local ecosystem, I began tunneling into the Earth's crust to rob it of all its natural resources. I then found some iron pretty quickly, and after smelting it up, I completed our set of iron armor and tools. Then I decided to add an actual roof and floor to our base, and on the morning of day 10, I went back to mining. And since there's no coordinates, I'm just going going to mine down until I hit bedrock, and then mine like some specific amount of blocks above that. But then I just gave up after I found some more iron, and then I began expanding the shoreline out in front of our base. I had a vision at this point to terraform this lake into a giant flat dirt plain and build the epic mansion I have planned on top. Then I found this weird bug with the water, and then I headed back into the mines. And I didn't hit bedrock, but I did hit this lava lake that I'm pretty sure just spans across the entire bottom of the world, so I just went up a few blocks and proceeded to give myself carpal tunnel mining for the rest of the day. But anyways, on the morning of day 11, we were in infdev 2010-06-11, and big trees, signs, ladders, and doors have been added. And once again, our world had decided that there aren't enough trees and spawned a bunch more in for some reason. So I began day 11 by mutilating this local ecosystem. I also noticed that sheep were spawning, so I attempted to trap them in this hole so I could force them to repopulate the herd. But then I accidentally murdered one of them. Oops. I then continued chopping down trees, and once it was nighttime, I headed back into the mines to hop back on that block game grind set. I continued mining on day 12 and managed to find some more coal and iron, but sadly no diamonds yet. I then resurfaced to touch grass, but also to smelt up our profits and chop down some more trees. I did that for the rest of the day, and then I set out to look for some caves in the hopes of finding some diamonds on day 13. But I quickly noticed that there didn't seem to be any around, and then I looked it up, and I'm pretty sure caves didn't generate in the version that we generated these chunks in. There's also apparently a version of indev that doesn't generate diamonds at all, so basically we may need to consider relocation. Immense wealth, check. Meat, check. Severe brain damage? Check. We now have everything we need to abandon our second home and go somewhere where we can actually get rich quick. So I began heading southwest again, and did so until I reached this spot and saw that mobs were spawning again. And even though we can respawn now, we're a pretty decent ways away from spawn, and beds don't exist until beta, so I quickly set up camp and went back to mining. I then proceeded to mine for the rest of the day, continued mining on day 14, upgraded to the next version in the middle of the day because I lost track of what day it is, got attacked by this skeleton that glitched into our base, and then continued mining for the rest of day 14 without unearthing a single dingle vein of shiny blue rock. But anyways, it's day 15 and we're in the first Secret Friday update, infdev 2010-06-18. It's not really a secret, nor is it Friday, but buckets along with water and lava buckets, rails, mine carts, although they're currently unrideable and their item texture is literally this, I'm not joking, and doors have been added. On the morning of day 15, I had realized that we made a massive mistake. Apparently, in the earlier versions of Minecraft, the sun actually rises in the north and sets in the south, unlike in real life and modern Minecraft where it rises in the east and sets in the west. So basically, I am entirely in the wrong spot to find diamonds. And since there's no coordinates, I have no clue where I am. But if you do some complicated math calculations and graphing and triangulation, and open up a backup of the world in MC Edit to see where I am and where I need to head in order to be in the southwest quadrant, you'll find out that if we go far enough in this direction, we'll be in the southwest quadrant. So I embarked on the final stretch of our journey, and then my game crashed. And then it crashed again, and yeah. This constant crashing basically never stops happening whenever we travel in this world. Apparently Minecraft doesn't like being updated from classic all the way to the full release. But anyways, after a bit of traveling and evading mobs, I once again dug a pit and cried myself to sleep. Of course that was a joke because you aren't allowed to sleep in this version. I continued my ultra marathon on the morning of day 16 and continued traversing infdev terrain for the entire day. And my world was seriously starting to implode. Lighting wasn't working properly, literal pieces of the earth were just non-existent, and of course my game was still crashing every 31 milliseconds. I swam through this body of water at the opposite of light speed, looking as goofy as I possibly could for the rest of the day, and after a little more exercise and finding this mushroom tree on the morning of day 17, I finally decided to set up camp, at least temporarily, so we can make some actual progress towards getting diamond armor and tools. Once camp had been upset, I politely greeted our new neighbors, crafted our first door, and this is the first version that we can get a half door in by having a tree grow next to a door. So I set up the contraption, and if the leaves generate over the top half of the door, we'll be left with our second illegal block. And then I went back to mining. I mined for the rest of the day and actually managed to find some gold, which hopefully means we're in new chunks and we can finally get some diamonds. And finally, after a little bit more mining, on the morning of day 18, disaster struck. I was mining around lava pockets, and even though I wasn't touching lava, I suddenly caught on fire. And then my game crashed. I quickly loaded the game back up and crossed my fingers that reloading my world somehow saves me from this glitch. But when I loaded our world, I was greeted with this. So, Yeah. First of all, what is that? Well, second of all, what in the actual Flint and Steel Minecraft? Upon clicking respawn, all of my progress, dignity, and hopes and dreams had been deleted out of existence. So, problem number 1, we are very far away from our base. Problem number 2, I have no clue how to get back to our base. Problem number 3, our items might despawn, but I don't really know how that works in this version. And problem number 4, either way, we probably lost our overstacked dirt, which is unfortunate. We can bounce back, but before I try going back to the base, we need to get some temporary gear. So I headed back into the classic chunks, and we spawned outside of here because now this area is an invalid spawn location because it's too low. And I headed over to our old base to see if we left anything. But we didn't. So I began gathering resources from the surrounding area, and by the end of the day, I had stone tools and a large quantity of meat. So I climbed into the infdev chunks and began the journey back to our base, until I got jump scared by these skeletons. After a little more walking, I ran into this insane world corruption. Anyways, I was scared of mobs, so I built this questionably existent treehouse, and then my game crashed and my treehouse got deleted. I then continued traversing the corrupted terrain for most of day 19, until setting up camp at the end of the day. I then mined for the rest of the day, and on the morning of day 20 for resources, and we're now in infdev 2010-0625, which was also the second Secret Friday update, and dungeons along with monster spawners and saddles were added. I gathered some more resources from the surrounding area and then went back to mining, and at long last, I finally found a vein of diamonds. It was literally only 2, and it's also day 20, but I honestly don't think I've ever been this excited to find diamonds. We know now that we're most likely in the right chunks, even if it's unlikely that we'll get full diamond armor and tools by day 25, but I still felt pretty good in this moment, and honestly, I already have pretty much all the same stuff we had before we kicked the bucket, so I'm just gonna set up camp permanently somewhere nearby, and this is the last time, I promise. So I went back to mining. I mined for the rest of the day. I continued mining on day 21. I set up the half door contraption again. I mean, it's literally just a sapling and a door, but that's an extremely complex contraption to me, okay? And then built ourselves another house. And I even mined up some sand and smelted it into glass for some actual windows. Then I went back to mining, mined for the rest of the day, and then I milked this lake on the morning of day 22. And then I found an actual cave in the mines, so I explored around a little bit, but ultimately went back to mining because I was scared. I mined a little more, lit up our base a little more, and then mined for the rest of the day, and for the morning of day 23. And then after stripping the local population of their clothes, I found this cave and began exploring it in hopes of finding more diamonds. I surfaced from the cave, still completely diamondless, however. On day 24, I finally crafted up a painting successfully, and we also got the second cursed block of the world. Oh, I got it. Well, until it broke, that is. But don't worry, there's still a ton more crazy illegal items that we're able to collect later on in this video, and it gets pretty insane, so make sure to stick around to see that. But anyways, I headed back down into the mines one final time to see if we could at least find one more vein so we could make a single piece of armor. And on day 25, we had amassed a total of 2 diamonds out of the 33 that would have been necessary to craft a full set of diamond armor and tools. So it's needless to say that we failed miserably, but we're now finally in alpha, is what I would say if I hadn't forgotten to take my pills, completely lost track of what day it was, and proceeded to spend all of day 25 caving. I then surfaced from the caves on the morning of day 26, and I did get a lot of resources, but obviously no diamonds. After making it back to the base, I then went back into the mines and mined for the entire rest of the day and part of day 27 before realizing I had lost track of the day count and finally upgrading to alpha, specifically the first alpha version. And now oak and cobblestone stairs and compasses have been added. Alpha 1.0 specifically didn't really add anything though. Also, I used the 2 diamonds we got to make a diamond sword for some reason. It's now time to focus on our next major goal of this challenge, which I think ends up turning out pretty epic: building our base. Because alpha and beta don't exactly have the widest selection of blocks available, but I started by getting a bird's eye view of our current base to see if it's going to work for the base I have planned, and I don't really think it is. So I began looking around the surrounding area to see if there was a more suitable plot of land nearby, and then I found this. And it might not look like much right now, but with a little work, I think this area is perfect for the house I have planned. So I quickly made a cobblestone pillar to mark the area so it's easier to find again, and then decided to begin lighting up the area since I didn't see too many mobs. I spent the rest of the day doing that, along with clearing out some trees, and then set up a temporary camp on the morning of day 28. I continued removing the nature parts of this natural landscape, and now it's time to terraform. Yeah, so I realized I actually have everything we need to start preparing the land for this build, so we'll just head back to the other base whenever we need blocks to start work on the actual build itself. So I began unmaking these rolling hills to make way for industrialization, and I actually spent the entire rest of the day and the entirety of day 29 working on flattening this area for the build I have planned, which by the way is going to be a massive mansion mansion, with elements of this castle from the original Minecraft trailer, and this image of a building in Wizard City from Adventure Time mixed in, plus some random ideas I had for it that ended up looking pretty cool. But anyways, on the morning of day 30, the land was finally ready, and we were in Secret Friday 4. Secret Friday 3 is currently a lost version, but it added iron doors, levers, a bunch of redstone stuff, buttons, and pressure plates. Secret Friday 4 added ice and snow. It also added sitting, but just the body position of sitting required to do things like riding a boat or a minecart. Hostile mob sounds and cave sounds were also added in between these updates. And since there are so many Secret Friday updates in alpha, we're going to be updating the world every day for the next few days in order to do each of them justice. I headed back to our old crib on the precipice of day 30. And for those who actually know what precipice means, stop. That's incorrect. I am actually the only being with knowledge of that word, and I used it completely correctly in that sentence. Anyways, after getting lost a total of 0 times, I actually failed to find our base. So I went back to excavating the entire continent of Canada, and then I found and imprisoned this pig, whose name is now Billy Bob Bowberry Biscuit. I then went back to dirt mining, and then headed back out to locate our previous residence. And on the morning of day 31, we were in Secret Friday 5, which added cactus and boats. Also, snow blocks and snowballs have been added, and F5 no longer causes severe weather in your immediate vicinity. But I managed to actually make it back to the base on day 31 and grab a poop ton of blocks. And then on the way back over to our new base, I found some cactus. I'm not sure how or why this spawned here, but for some reason, punching them hurts you in this version. Also, breaking the bottom one doesn't break the whole cactus. And this texture is slightly bugged. But anyways, I returned to our currently non-existent home to discover that Billy Bob Bowberry Biscuit had perished. Anyways, I continued the final stretch of terraforming for the rest of day 31, and for like half of day 32. And then we were in Secret Friday 6, which added reeds, clay, and clay balls along with bricks, paper, books, and slimes along with slime balls. Leather, milk, and cows have also been added. I then continued terraforming, found and unfound this cow, and then imprisoned Billy Bob Bowberry Biscuit's brother Bingo. And then on the morning of day 33, we were in Secret Friday 7, which added the jukebox along with the first 2 music discs, 13 and cat, eggs, minecarts with furnaces, minecarts with chests, and chickens. Also, in Alpha 1.0.13_1, the menu screen logo was changed to this for some reason. I was finally beginning to satiate my intense desire to destroy the environment on the morning of day 33, so I began putting in the frame for the front of the giant mansion, starting by deciding how wide I wanted it to be, and then building up with dirt to determine how tall I wanted it to be. And I kept skydiving into these shallow puddles, just aiming for the center of the water intuitively, not realizing that if I don't land in the exact center of the water, I'll probably just die. But I'm sure there won't be any consequences for that in exactly 43 seconds. Okay, it looks like I was right. There was just immediate consequences for that. But yeah, not only was that extremely close, if we took a fall from that height in the modern game with no water, we definitely would have died. So I guess Steve just has insane quads in this version. But after healing my health, I began making the outline for our mansion 3-dimensional. Then I'm pretty sure I was running out of coal and iron, so I hit the mines to collect some resources. Then I spread the light of our axolotl Lord and Savior some more, and then found some of the new mobs. Well, I mean, they're not new, they've been in the game for over a decade, but I have severe brain damage. Anyways, I removed Billy Bob's brother Bingo's containment cell, home, began smelting up some stone at some point, did some more mining, and then on day 34, we were in Secret Friday 8, which added spider jockeys, and also you spawn in with 64 fences in your inventory when starting a new world for some reason. On day 34, I unalived some chickens. Then, in a shocking turn of events, I continued mining. I mined all the way down to bedrock, and you'll never guess what I found. A hole in the ground. Groundbreaking stuff, I know. Seriously though, that's mildly concerning that there's just holes in the bottom of the world in these versions. Back in my day, we mined at Y11. Okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed. Anyways, once my last pickaxe broke, I went back up to the surface, and then a skeleton decided to rain on my non-existent parade. Then I began work on building up the front of our mansion with stone. And on day 35, we were in Alpha 1.1, also known as Secret Friday 9, which added a ton of stuff, including the compass. Okay, I just added the compass. I went back to mining on day 35 and then finally found more diamonds. Well, diamond, singular. But I didn't have an iron pickaxe, so I headed back up to the surface, made one, and then went back down into the mines to claim our shiny blue rock. After resurfacing, I slaughtered some more local animals for sustenance. I then went back to work on the mansion. On day 36, we were in Alpha 1.1.1, also known as Secret Saturday, the final installment of the not very secret updates. And it added fishing rods, 5 new paintings, and sneaking. And we will now be returning back to the normal normal rate of updating the game, about every 3 to 5 days. I continued construction of the front wall on day 36, and after some more effort, I managed to finally complete it. So I removed all my dirt scaffolding and began work on the outline for the front door archway. I experimented with different shaping for the rest of the day, controlled the local population a bit more on day 37, and then got the entrance archway looking how I wanted it to. Then I set up this extremely complicated and intricate contraption to get the third illegal block of the challenge, the top half of a door. Also, why are cactuses so big when you drop them now? Anyways, I set up the contraption in our mansion because this house is also going to double as a museum for all the illegal blocks and items we collect over the course of the challenge. Then I went back to mining/caving, did that for the rest of the day, and managed to find another vein of diamonds, plural this time. I mined them on the morning of day 38, and then crafted our first diamond pickaxe of the world. I then used said diamond pickaxe to mine obsidian for 5 minutes straight. Absolutely riveting. Then I made this absurd looking pressure plate, and then made a doorway to our house, which is good enough for now. Then I crafted cobblestone into stone slabs, cause this version is on something, and began placing in these stone slab pillars to add some depth and texture. I continued adding in these pillars on day 39, and just ignore that gap in the far left pillar, that's actually just an optical illusion. Then I died. Yeah, I thought full water blocks broke your fall, but either they recently changed that or this was a bug. Either way, I spent the rest of the day wandering in the general direction of our base. I managed to get back to the base on day 40, and somehow my items hadn't despawned yet. So that's cool. I guess they either weren't loaded in, or the 5-minute despawn timer just hasn't been added yet. But anyways, I began removing the stone in the archway so I could recess it back a block to give the build more depth. I also began on this cobblestone outline for the same reason on day 41. Then after overcoming my trauma with years of therapy in the pocket dimension where time runs faster, I went back to placing in the pillars. Then I began adding this road pathway thing leading up to the front of the house with cobblestone, stone, and gravel, and finished that on the morning of day 42. And honestly, I was pretty proud of this road. I don't know why, but I thought it would be much harder to make a decent looking road with the limited block palette in these versions. Anyways, then I fixed this optical illusion in the far left pillar that was never real. In fact, this footage isn't even real and this never happened. Then I added some variation to the wall, chopped down some trees, and collected some sand for glass. Then I went back to mining, mined for the rest of the day, and then hit this cave on day 43 and found 2 diamond veins. Upon resurfacing, I made our first piece of diamond armor. At this rate, we might actually accomplish our first goal before the sun engulfs the solar system in a billion years. I then began work on the next major feature for our epic mansion, a window. Just a regular old large window. I continued working on that on day 44, and we are now in Alpha 1.2, the Halloween update. And for the first time, the game actually looks completely different, because the grass color was finally changed. I do like the bright green grass, and I think there should be a biome with that grass color in the modern game, but this grass color is definitely much less pain-inducing to the eyes, so I'll call that an improvement. This update was massive for its time, because this update added the first new dimension to the game, the Nether. And along with this new dimension came netherrack, soul sand, glowstone, along with glowstone dust, the nether portal, ghasts, and zombie pigmen. This update also added carved pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. Fishing actually works now, and you can catch the brand new fish item which can be cooked. Also, normal pigmen were added to the game's code, although they didn't spawn naturally. So after appreciating this brand new world I found myself in, I of course constructed our very first nether portal, and then I couldn't figure out how to craft a flint and steel, but I eventually got it and lit the nether portal. I then prepared my inventory and hopped in to check out our spawn, and despite the frankly disturbing gas sounds, we actually got a pretty safe spawn. I'm still a loser though, so I built a cobblestone box around our portal, or at least part of one, and then headed back to the overworld. But I spawned in a completely different location. Luckily though, we were pretty close to the base, and I managed to find my way back. Our mansion is currently a bit one-sided, so I began work on building up the sides of the house with cobblestone. And I'm not using stone because I'm too broke. I mean, it's just an artistic choice. I then began moving all of our belongings into our new house. Also, why are there so many passive mobs spawning? Also, why do furnaces take this long to break? Anyways, now this house is a home. It's still just a block game though. I then went back into the nether and finished our scuffed nether house on the morning of day 45. And then I began mining out this room to gather up some netherrack for the build. I also broke this other portal upon returning to the overworld, so hopefully that fixes that. Upon returning to the base, I built a dirt stairway up to the 69th floor of our apartment building, and then began work on the netherrack roof. Normally, I would never use netherrack in a build, but netherrack as a roof actually looks pretty good in this version. But after constructing this tiny monstrosity, I began work on a much larger monstrosity. Okay, but it actually doesn't look that bad. So on day 46, I headed back into the nether nether to get some more netherrack. And then I found out that destruction doesn't solve all your problems sometimes, cause breaking the portal over here didn't fix this. But anyways, I went back to work on the roof, worked on that for basically the rest of the day, and it's looking pretty good so far, I think. And then after giving this friendly spider some constructive criticism on its existence, I used its remains to craft a fishing rod. And once we get some more string, you can actually stack fishing rods in this version, which would give us our 4th illegal item. Then I began moving this chest I forgot about into our house, and finished doing that on day 47. I then fished some animals, and then fished some fish. I then realized that I missed my opportunity to make leather armor out of wool in the earlier versions, which would have been cool, but whatever. I worked on the roof a little bit more, and then went back to mining. I hacked at stone and dead meat for the rest of the day, and managed to find 2 more veins of diamonds and this zombie spawner, but it didn't really have any good loot. But I did get some string so we can make some more fishing rods. Then I crafted up a diamond chest plate with our shiny profits, and 2 more fishing rods. And yeah, I don't know why this was a thing, but it was. So there's the 4th illegal item. And then I added lava falls to either side of the main entrance, cause it looks cool. Then I continued figuring out the sizing and placement I wanted for this window above the archway. And on day 49, we were in alpha 1.2.2, and pretty much nothing has been added since the last version, but for some reason, you can spawn nether portals at will in this version. I do not know why. And yes, this is literally the only reason I'm upgrading again before we go to beta. After spawning in a ton of portals for no actual reason, I added in the glass and this wool border to the window. Then I experimented with different depths, and added in these oak pillars around the giant window for some more detail. Then I continued placing in the other 3 walls for the rest of the day, and on day 50, not only were we halfway through the challenge, but we're also now in beta. Beta 1.0 added tooltips, eggs can now be thrown with a chance of spawning a chicken, and support for capes. After exploring the new and exciting world of beta, I deduced that it's pretty much exactly the same as the last version, at least in terms of visuals. But anyways, then I realized that my floor wasn't exactly level and also didn't exist, so I decided to fix one of those problems. Then I went back to building the other 3 walls of my box for the rest of the day, and managed to nearly finish it on day 51. Then I put in an actual floor in our house, cause my feet were slightly worm infested, and I managed to almost create an entire floor. Then I made a bow and sniped this creep off my roof. I went back to work on the roof and did that for the rest of the day. I then began adding this smaller protruding building to the right side of the building to add more detail, and I decided to reposition our lava falls slightly and make these pillars a bit thick. Then I pulled out the machine gun and absolutely annihilated the local population of wildlife on the morning of day 53. Then I continued working on the pillars and managed to finish, and then worked on the roof and flooring renovations a bit more. I also messed around with this 3rd person mode for some reason. I went tree chopping on the morning of day 54, and then continued work on the little protruding buildings on either side of the mansion. Then I completed another 2% of the floor, and on day 55, we were in beta 1.1. Beta 1.1 added a couple capes, rewrote leaf decay, fixed 4 bugs, and accidentally removed all text in the game. Truly one of the updates of all time. I hit the mines again on day 55, mined until I found diamonds, then made some shoes, and then continued mining for the rest of the day. I continued deleting virtual blocks on day 56, found another vein of diamonds, and then completed my set of diamond armor. Epic. But my insatiable greed and desire for shiny blue profit drove me to continue mining for the rest of the day, and upon returning from my sweaty 14-hour shift in the mines, I was assaulted by chickens and this creep. I continued exercising my freedom on day 57 by progressing my stage 8 brain rot to stage 9, and continued work on the mansion. I then died and went to the opposite of heaven to mine more netherrack to finish the roof with, and then upon going back through the portal, this happened. My game crashed, and upon reloading the world, I was at world spawn. Bruh. So despite the fact that I now have stage 10 brain rot, I'm pretty sure we just lost our entire set of diamond armor and tools, and all that netherrack we collected, all to a freaking glitch. Yeah, but after questioning my life choices, I began the journey back to the base, and continued that extremely fun and thrilling and exciting journey for the rest of the day, and for like most of day 58 before finally reaching our base. Why did I make our base so far away from spawn? Anyways, I began using what we had in storage to gear back up somewhat, and then hit the mines again to begin attempting to recoup what we just lost for literally no reason. I'm not salty, you're salty. Anyways, I mined and caved for basically the entirety of day 59, and managed to find at least an entire singular vein of diamond. I'm too lazy to check, but it was at least one. I then mined for the entirety of day 60 as well, and also probably found at least 1 vein of diamond. I continued mining for part of day 61, and we're now in beta 1.2. Beta 1.2 was a pretty big update. It added cake, dispensers, lapis along with lapis ore and blocks, note blocks, sandstone, and spruce and birch wood. Dyed wools have been re-added along with cocoa beans, bone meal, ink sacks, and all the other dyes. Sugar and charcoal. I seriously had no idea this was added so long ago, that's insane. Gray, light gray, and black sheep variants along with squids were also added. Also, reeds were renamed to sugarcane, and squid can be milked for some reason. I'm not kidding. I immediately crafted as many dyes as I was able to with the materials I had, and now I want to add something pretty cool to the top of our base. I don't really know how to describe it other than giant yellow horns with a big eyeball in the center. Just don't think about it too much, it'll look cool, I promise. So I began work on that and then went out to collect more flowers because I ran out of yellow wool. I started a little sugarcane farm for some reason on the morning of day 62 and then continued picking flowers. What's that saying? We get so caught up in the future that we forget to destroy flowers and profit off of their corpses along the way. Man, Abraham Lincoln was so wise. Anyways, I made some more yellow wool and then went back to work on the top of the roof. And after a bit of experimenting with different shapes and sizes, I managed to get something that looked half decent. So I began work on replicating it on the other side. I accidentally built the entire right side a block off on the morning of day 63. So after breaking the whole thing down and building it back up again, I stepped down to take a look at the whole thing. And the whole base is looking pretty good so far, but it definitely still needs more. I tried crafting all of my gold into gold blocks to use as variation in the golden upside down arch things, but I didn't have anywhere near enough gold. On day 64, I began adding in some variation to the front wall of our house. Then I bone milled some trees out front to add some greenery. That's right, back in my day, you only needed one bone meal to fully grow trees and props. I then added these outlines to the base of each of the pillars to make them look better, and then I worked on filling in this gap between the pillars and the front wall. Then I worked on the other 3 walls of the mansion some more, and then remembered that I need to get squid milk in this version, and we have to upgrade to beta 1.3 tomorrow. So I headed out to sea and frantically searched for a squid. Despite finding one though, I wasn't able to milk it for some reason. I don't really know why this is, but I was out of time. And on day 65, we were in beta 1.3. Beta 1.3 added the redstone repeater, cobblestone, wooden, and sandstone slabs, a new painting, and finally, beds. So we can finally skip the night and set our spawn point to our base. The texture for crying obsidian was also added. Also, smooth lighting and coordinates have finally been added as well, although they were added in beta 1.2.3. And suddenly, everything looked completely different. All the colors and textures are the same, but smooth lighting really makes everything start looking more like modern Minecraft. After appreciating this new visual change, I crafted our very first bed of the world on day 65. I don't know why in every challenge I do, I can't get a bed until over halfway through, but whatever. At least there's no phantoms this time. I began adding a basement to our mansion to act as our bedroom, because this bed is going to act as our spawn point and I don't want it being blown up by a creeper or anything. After that, it was already nighttime somehow, so I went to sleep. Why isn't it working? I tried turning it off and on again, and that worked for some reason. I'm pretty sure I just needed to be closer to the bed. Anyways, I woke up on day 66, a brand new Steve, after getting my first night of sleep in over 2 months. How I'm even alive after 65 days of sleep deprivation is a question I will answer right now. It's because this is a video game and this isn't real. I then made our 5th cursed block, the petrified oak slab. Okay, in this version, it's just a regular wooden slab, but it's really just a retextured stone slab because it's mined with a pickaxe, makes stone sounds, and can't catch on fire. And if we upgraded this world to the modern version of the game, this block would change to be named Petrified Oak Slab, which is unobtainable in survival in the modern game. There's also another illegal block we can get in this version, a half bed, but I need cactus to do it, and I accidentally smelted all of our cactus into green dye, so I set out into the unknown to find some cactus. And I actually found some pretty easily, so after heading back home and sleeping again to set my spawn point again, I used the cactus to get ourselves the half bed block alongside our lineup of other illegal blocks and items. I don't know if I could sleep in this, but I'm not gonna find out. I then headed up to our roof again to finish building up the other 3 walls again, this time along the shape of the netherrack roof. After I finished that, I committed some more deforestation, hit the sack, and then headed into the nether to get some more netherrack. I wouldn't normally do this considering that last time we lost all of our stuff, but I kind of need more netherrack to finish the roof of our house. So I hacked this atrocious netherrack texture for the rest of the day, and then put all of my profits and valuables in this chest, so I can make sure I don't lose all my stuff going back through before actually taking the stuff back to the overworld. I went back through the portal, and then my game crashed again. But thankfully, I wasn't at the spawn point when I loaded the world again. It was nighttime though, so I skedaddled back home, slept, and then went back through the portal on day funny number. I grabbed our diamond pickaxe, went back through, and didn't lose it. Nice. I broke the portal and then headed back home. Also, why does our base just look like a giant medieval McDonald's from this angle? Bruh. Then I went right back into the nether to make sure the portals were properly linked, and my game crashed again, but they were. So that's cool. I then tried it one more time just to see if it would still crash my game, and it obviously worked. I mean, it just worked like 3 times in a row. Bro. Anyways, after intentionally soiling my adult diaper, I reluctantly gathered some wood, made a boat, and then continued sailing back home. At least I have coordinates and boats now though. I traveled for the rest of the day and continued traveling on day 7, and my game kept crashing over and over again, which is whatever, but every time I reloaded the world after a crash, my boat just gets deleted for some reason, which was really annoying. Oh yeah, also I died. Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. I thought I could mine the crafting table and make it up to the surface in time before I died, but whatever. Also, now that I think about it, why do I keep spawning here when I should be spawning next to my bed? I think these versions just hate me or something. Anyways, after losing the last of my dignity, I spent the rest of the day traveling back to the base, and arrived on the morning of day 71, and we're now in beta 1.4. Beta 1.4 added locked chests as an April Fool's prank, cookies, and wolves. Also, the menu screen logo was finally changed to the modern day one, and even though I don't want to, I still have to go back to get our stuff. So after testing it again in a backup world, I went in, grabbed our stuff, and hoped for the best. And luckily, we made it back somehow. Probably because we upgraded to beta 1.4. But anyways, let's never do that again. After gearing back up, I got to work on finishing the roof of our mansion. I worked on that for the rest of the day, and for almost the entirety of day 72, and managed to finally finish. Although I did have to steal some netherrack from the top portion of the roof to have enough. Then I contributed further to global warming because of my philanthropic nature, but also so we can actually have an entire floor in our house. Also because I want to begin adding other floors to the house. Well, they're actually gonna be more like balconies. I continued turning this man-made forest into a barren wasteland on day 73, exterminated this horde of zombies that spawned in our mansion that is now a mob spawner because I don't know the proper light level to prevent mob spawning in this version. Obviously, I put more attention to the front of the build so the thumbnail looks better. Cause it's the front of the build. But I'd like the other sides of the house to at least have some kind of detail. So I'm gonna add in like 3.1415 floors of windows to each side of the other sides, because math. But anyways, I then began work on the second floor interior balcony, added in some more windows, got assaulted by some tall grass, and then put in some of the glass into the windows on day 74. I also added in second floor access, and continued adding in window holes. Then I got attacked by a skeleton, but hey, at least the mob farm is working. Then I stole more natural resources from this beach, fought more mobs, and went through the painstaking process of removing all the sturdy scaffolding I placed in for roof access. I continued adding in windows, and then on day 75, we were in beta 1.5. Beta 1.5 added birch saplings, cobwebs, detector rails, powered rails, spruce saplings, achievement statistics, and charged creepers, which are created whenever a creeper is struck by lightning. Because apparently exploding wasn't enough, they need superpowers too. And pigs will now transform into zombie pigmen whenever they're struck by lightning. Weather, including rain and snowfalls, were added because who doesn't love getting drenched or buried in pixelated weather? And of course, lightning storms along with lightning bolts were also added. And you can sleep through thunderstorms even if it's daytime though. Upon spawning into our world, I immediately got the Taking Inventory achievement on day 75, and then checked out the old achievements page. Then I realized that the oak saplings I placed outside our house all got converted into random sapling types for some reason. So now we have spruce and birch sapling. It's not like you can make different wood types yet, but still, pretty cool. Anyways, I went back to placing in windows, expanded our sugarcane farm some, chopped some more trees, and then began adding in the third floor to our base. Then it almost burned down. But anyways, I did that for the rest of the day and continued chopping trees on day 76. And then we got our very first rainstorm. I went back to work on the windows and then began moving some of our stuff into the basement and making some better looking pedestals for our illegal blocks and items museum. I then began adding the pedestals to the second and third floors on day 77. Then I added some details to these windows, expanded the basement some more, and then moved the rest of our stuff into the basement. I redid the half bed glitch to get it into a different position on the morning of day 78, and then went to work on finishing this small protruding building to the left side of the mansion that I never finished earlier. And I ran out of netherrack, so I stole some more from the roof, but don't tell anybody. Anyways, I pretty much finished it by the end of the day, and on day 79, we were in beta 1.6. Beta 1.6 added dead bushes, grass, ferns, trapdoors, and maps. More specifically, we're in beta 1.6 test build 3, which added something very specific, which is going to allow us to get a ton of illegal blocks and items. Whenever you start a new world in this version, 11 chests filled with every block and item in the game spawn in with you, including a ton of cursed items like water source blocks, crops, and bedrock. But how do we get these chests without starting a new world? Well, not by copying nether files like lesser YouTubers might do. Okay, I've done that before too. But seriously, thanks pretty much entirely to Zelinator's help, we were able to find a way to generate these chests without making a new world. Bada bing, bada boom. Now the debug chest should be at these coordinates I wrote down from earlier. So after preparing my inventory and making a compass, I headed towards those coordinates. Also, yeah, F3 has a bug in these versions that puts a random string of numbers over every mob's head, so that's weird. But anyways, I adventure timed for the rest of the day and for most of day 80, before finally finding all of the debug chests by the end of the day. And this is why we did this. Yeah, so I began grabbing all the illegal blocks and items from the chests, and then it was nighttime, so I slept. But I continued collecting illegal blocks and items bright and early on day 81, including but not limited to lava source blocks, portal blocks, unlit redstone torches, farmland, sugarcane, but not the item, just the actual block, crops, and of course, bedrock. I'm not going to be taking any blocks or items that can be obtained in-game normally, however, as tempting as that may be, because that would basically be cheating. We also got half beds, half doors, fire, which I'm gonna do something hilarious with. Then I placed a ton of the blocks down, including lava and water that doesn't flow, fire that can't be put out and makes wood sound effects, and literal bedrock. This is hilarious. We also got lit furnaces, full slab blocks, and monster spawners, which just default to pig spawners when placed. Once I had my fun and slept because I spent all day doing that somehow, I destroyed the rest of the items on the morning of day 82 because we won't be needing them, and then began the journey back home. After journeying for the rest of day 82 and most of day 83, I arrived back at the base and placed in all of our illegal profits into our illegal museum. Maybe I should stop saying illegal so much before my FBI agent shows up at my front door. I continued committing federal crimes on the morning of day 84, and then I crafted firearm. I'm not joking. Yeah, so since the actual crafting recipe for chainmail armor is fire, that's right, you thought chainmail wasn't craftable, but it is. Anyways, we can literally craft chainmail armor since we got our hands on fire, which I think is legitimately hilarious. So after crafting up a full set of cursed armor, I then began trying to get a 0 stack of cobblestone using a furnace glitch in this version. And it doesn't look like it, but this is actually 0 pieces of cobblestone. Like if I add it to a stack, the number doesn't go up. So that's cool, I guess. And we're now in beta 1.7, because I guess I forgot to upgrade at the beginning of the day. My bad. Beta 1.7 added pistons and sticky pistons, shears, and silverfish. Well, the textures for silverfish anyways. The textures for bricks and cobblestone have also been changed, and flint and steel is now required to explode TNT. I continued putting our illegal blocks and items into our museum, broke down our nether portal, and then messed around with different designs for a sort of mega pedestal for the coolest blocks and items. I continued work on that on day 85 and managed to finish, and I think it looks pretty cool. Then I finished placing in the rest of the cursed blocks and items, or at least most of them I think. And now I need to get another set of diamond armor so I can be wearing it in the thumbnail. I mean, so we're more protected. Anyways, I mined 1 by 1 holes in an existing mine because I was out of coal to make torches with for the rest of the day, and on day 86 until I found some diamonds. Then I went back up to the surface, gathered up some sand for glass, chopped down some more trees, and then added in some chests to the second floor to continue storing our illegal items. I put in the rest of the illegal items we had, and then went back to mining for the rest of the day. I then mined for the entirety of day 87 and found 1 diamond. Yeah. I then returned to the surface to make some diamond pants on day 88, and I guess I made some more armor at some point too. And we're now in beta 1.8. Beta 1.8 was massive. It added stone brick, along with mossy and cracked stone bricks, infested stone bricks, cobblestone and stone, brick slabs, stone brick slabs, giant mushrooms along with mushroom blocks, brown, red, and stem, melons along with melon slices and seeds, vines, iron bars, glass panes, which actually drop when destroyed in this version, fence gates, brick stairs and stone brick stairs, chicken, beef, ender pearls, pumpkin seeds, rotten flesh, cave spiders, endermen. Silverfish were fully implemented, and if you think that's a lot, we're not done. As I loaded into our world, we were in a whole new game. Not only were all of our chests glitched, but I could finally sprint. And this actually felt insane after not being able to sprint for so long. I also finally changed my FOV to 90. The only FOV. No other FOVs actually exist, this whole video isn't real. I was also already running low on hunger, so I went around to get some of the new meat types. Also, luckily it seems like we kept pretty much all of our cursed blocks and items, so that's cool. But for some reason, blocks don't have any shading in your inventory, which looks really cursed. You can also block with swords now, which is cool. But anyways, I went back to work on the protruding buildings and added in these windows, and managed to finish on day 89. I also bone mealed some grass out front of our mansion, because that exists now, and then started a little farm to get some more food, but also to breed some sheep later on. Then I made some adjustments to the protruding buildings, and then pretty much just did random stuff for the rest of the day. And on day 90, I began work on the outline for another window I want to add. Well, not really a window, unless you count a window to another dimension, a window. It's gonna be a nether portal, basically. I want to add some more color to the build, and there aren't really many ways to do that in this version. So after placing in a frame and placing in the nether portal using the blocks from our old portal, I headed over to this field of happily roaming, naturally occurring, grass-fed nether portals and began removing them from reality reality. Then I added in some more temporary blocks into the wall, which I'll replace with obsidian, because I think this will create an illusion that will make the shape of this window thing less blocky. After that, I collected some spruce wood and did a similar thing with the main entrance, along with replacing the oak and spruce, and I think it looks a lot better. And on day 91, I found this super weird looking zombie. Yeah, I guess Endermen weren't fully operational yet in this version. Also, Ender pearls don't work. Then I tried to go find some squids for black ink to make black wool to use instead of obsidian in the nether portal window, but I couldn't find any for some reason. So I just harvested more obsidian from the local obsidian pasture and then finished the nether portal window. With less than 10% of the challenge remaining, our mansion is pretty much complete. Well, except for the inside and the other 3 sides having no detailing, but whatever. On day 92, we were in beta 1.9. Beta 1.9 was an absolutely gargantuan update, adding nether fortresses along with nether bricks, fences, stairs, and warts, blazes along with blaze rods and blaze powder, magma cubes along with magma cream, gas tiers, gold nuggets, cauldrons, spider eyes in regular or fermented flavor, glass bottles, 9 new music discs, the mushroom island along with mycelium and mushrooms, the frozen ocean biome, end portals spawn in strongholds now, although they look like this, breeding, hardcore mode, and villagers, which currently have no trading, and display the word testificate above their heads in certain versions. Also brewing stands along with the potion system, enchantment tables along with the enchanting system, end portal frames, eyes of Ender, the baby variants of a bunch of mobs, the entire end dimension along with the Ender Dragon, obsidian pillars, end crystals, and end stone, glistering melon, and of course, the rarest item in the game, the dragon egg. More specifically, we're in beta 1.9 pre-release 3, and you may be able to guess why. But for now, I rounded up some sheep and trapped them forever in this cramped hole. Then I stole their clothes and forced them to breed. Don't take that line out of context. Then I mined some more nether portals, which looked weird in this version, because I guess I hadn't actually finished the nether portal window. So I did that, and on day 93, it was time to die. So I put all my stuff in a chest and hopped into this flowing stream of liquid rock. But as I respawned, you may notice something interesting about my hotbar. Yeah, if you watched my skyblock video, you already know about this, but in this version, when you die, you respawn with a stack of enchantment tables, bookshelves, end portal frames, and end portal blocks. The literal portal itself as a block, that's what it is. And if you hover over that item, the game literally just crashes. So I can't move it out of that slot until we update again. They have different textures in this version, but as you can see, this is literally just an end portal. And this is going to be very important in getting the final block of this challenge, which we need in order to complete our final goal and get the rarest item in the game. I blocked off the hazardous material so we don't accidentally get teleported to another dimension, which by the way looks super cursed in this version because it's unfinished. I bone mealed some wheat to make food because I was literally starving. And then on day 94, I went back to mining to finish my full set of diamond armor for the thumbnail. I mean, for the final goal. Okay, it's for the thumbnail. I did that for the rest of the day and found diamonds on day 95. And after heading back up to the surface and completing my full set of diamond armor and tools for the second time, I discovered that you can insta-mine enchanting tables like you're in creative mode or something in this version, and got distracted doing that. And then I upgraded our world one final time to release 1.0. The only thing added between beta 1.9 and release 1.0 was just some new splashes and some minor changes and bug fixes in the release candidates. It's kinda like how nothing really changes between the final snapshot of any major update and the full release, because everything was already added in the snapshots. And although not much was different, there was no longer text in the corner of the screen telling us what version we're in. Truly epic. Also, it was pretty much the end of the day by the time I upgraded, so now it's day 96. And I then discovered that the end portal textures have finally been updated, and the crafting table mining speed had finally been reduced from 37 millennia. Also, I lied, the base isn't actually finished, but it's time to work on the final piece to the puzzle, the giant eye between the upside down McDonald's logo. So I gathered up all the wool I had and began work on it. And once I ran out of wool, I just stole some more from the inner portion of this border around the giant window. I continued working on the giant eyeball on day 97 and just used water contained with glass to make the blue iris, cause I'm currently too broke to afford blue wool. And yes, I used our cursed water source blocks because I was too lazy to fill up a bucket. Sorry. But now our base is actually finally complete and it's time to move on to our final goal, the dragon egg. But first, we need a way to get to the end, so I began using our third floor as a sort of portal display for a bunch of different cursed portals. And I messed up some of them, but I still think it looks pretty hilarious. Also, the nether portal blocks can't be placed next to one another, which is why they look like this. And now that we have our interdimensional transportation devices set up, it's time to prepare our inventory with all the illegal blocks and items we've managed to collect over the course of the challenge. So after taking a shower in this health juice to regain health and hunger, I went into the nether because there's actually 2 more illegal things I want to do. First, water in the nether. Hilarious and original. original. Second, end portal in the nether, which apparently just doesn't work for some reason. But after almost being blown up by a ghast about 50 times, I headed back into the overworld and began preparing my inventory for battle. I also took a mildly warm shower. Fire armor, check. Bedrock, check. Lack of skill at this game, check. The most insane looking inventory of all time, also check. Meat? Uncheck, we have no food. And now we're finally ready. So I hopped into the portal, and here we are. Time to take on the boss health. After quickly placing some of our items in a chest in case we bite the dust, like that would happen, I immediately quickscoped to end crystals. I got bullied some more by the Ender Dragon and his underlings, and then I died. But I hopped right back into battle, and after retrieving my items and attempting to build a safe shelter, I died again. So I hopped back in, retrieved my stuff, got bullied some more, and then managed to finish building the safe shelter. Okay, never mind. I took out another end crystal upon rising from the dead, and then on day 99, I died again, took out a crystal, died some more, took out some more crystals, died a couple more times, and with that, I had taken out all the end crystals. So I began shooting at the dragon. I was making progress, but I kept angering endermen and dying to them, which was extremely annoying. But after a bit more dying, sniping, explosive dying, and running out of arrows, on day 100, I managed to finally defeat the ender dragon. And then I died. But I could finally collect the rarest item in the game and complete the final goal of the challenge. Anyways, I'm trying to hit 1 million subscribers, so if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you're looking for another way to support the channel, want a shout out at the end of each of my videos, or you want the world downloads for this world or any of my other 100 Days worlds, consider becoming a patron. It's $1 for the lowest tier and helps me bring higher quality content to you more frequently. A special thanks to Darius Rongoni, Kathy Reinsel, Smelly Brit, Harper, Exotic J, Eli, Elijah Martinez, RBX Pros, Pack, Reese Monet, Leland Kelly, Zachary W, and the Bed234 for being Diamond and Netherite patrons. And thank you to everyone who's become a patron so far. But yeah, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.